Hello, my name is Jeb Sherrill, and I am not a guitar teacher. But I do have a bit of a thing for patterns. And guitars. The fretboard of the guitar is pretty confusing, and it seems really random, but it's not actually that hard if you figure out the structure behind it. Well, the structure is basically the chair system, and the chair is the key to that structure. Welcome back, chair players and prospective chair players. I really apologize. It has been so long since I put out a video. But the simple truth is I have these stickers being made and they're not done yet. But it's going to be really exciting and I have a lot of stuff coming. In the meantime, I'm going to answer a question I get a lot, and it's a really good question, which is basically, what is this crazy thing used for? I mean, it's interesting. It's a great way to break down the notes, but what do you do with it? Well, first of all, this is the whole system, and I know it looks very confusing at first, but it's actually really simple because it's all based on this one single chair shape right here. Here's the back of the chair, the back leg of the chair, and the front leg of the chair. We've gone over this on a number of videos, but if you haven't seen it before, this is what it's like. Now, contrary to popular belief, this is not a pentatonic-based system. It looks like a pentatonic-based system, but all that does is make it simpler. That's why I start with this 5-note shape. But you can tell how I add in the 2 extra diatonic notes, and ultimately what I want you to do is just be able to know the difference, because your brain is going to have the pentatonic shape and it's going to be able to play diatonics, and it's going to look at them separately, which is by design. It's not just a way to simplify it. It actually makes certain things easier when you're playing. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to go over the whole system very quickly. I'm not going to try and teach anything per se. I'm just going to show all the aspects of what we've already done in previous videos and where we're going. The first thing we're going to do is simplify that shape over there by taking out all the repeated notes, because these notes going diagonally across the fretboard are actually all the notes in one key on the whole guitar. In this case, G and E minor. Now, because these shapes are both major and minor, and I want you to look at them that way, just one shape, not a minor shape and a major shape, you can very easily know the major triad and the minor triads going down the guitar. So, if you're in G, you'll know and in the same way that you know the triads for G major, you will also know the triads for E minor. Now keep in mind, you're not going to play the triads that way. Sometimes you are, but they're very spread out like that. All this does is show you where the notes are, so that when you understand where the rest of the chairs are, you can very easily play the triads much more efficiently. The second really useful thing about this system is that if you're wanting to compose, if you're wanting to improvise, if you're wanting to just make chord progressions, it makes it really easy to know all the chords associated with both the major and its relative minor. In other words, all the chords associated with this chair. And what I do is I use it as a chair box. In other words, I add in this one extra note and make it a 6-note pattern instead of a 5-note pattern. Don't worry about this 7th note right now. That's the 7th of the major scale. It's a diminished chord and we don't use it a whole lot. So just these 6 notes. And the notes in any chair box are always going to be the same, no matter where they are. They're always going to be major, 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 minor, minor, and minor. And all you do is bass chords on them. Major, 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 minor, minor, minor. And you can always come up and play them in open positions. So anytime you're working with any key, you can just kind of picture this chair box in your mind, and you can sort of figure out, okay, those are going to be my major chords and those are going to be my minor chords. For instance, the three majors are going to be your major 1, 4, 5, and your three minors are going to be your minor 1, 4, 5. So it just makes it really simple. Now, one of the most interesting things about this system is when it comes to scales. The most obvious is the pentatonic scale, because each chair itself is a pentatonic shape. So you automatically get your major pentatonic shape, and you get your minor pentatonic shape. But once you add the 2 extra notes in, you actually get a whole diatonic shape. And there are reasons why it's separated like this, because looking at these other 2 notes as extra actually does help you when you're improvising. However, you can also add 1 note to the back leg of the chair, right in the middle of these 2 notes, and have your hexatonic scale, basically your blue note. You can also take this note and move it down 1 and have your harmonic minor. You can add this note here as well, and between this note and this note you will have your melodic minor. So it's a very versatile way to just shift things around and make any kind of scale you need. Ultimately, I want you to look at these shapes as chunks of intervals, not as scales per se. So in other words, this shape right here, if you're looking at it as major, you have your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Or as the relative minor, you have your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And then once you have those intervals down, you can play the same thing over any chair. And then when you're soloing over chord progressions, you can change your shape depending on what chord you're playing over. So in other words, when you're playing over E minor, you might play. But if you're playing over A minor, you would just make another chair based on this note instead of this note. So you sort of automatically know the chairs associated with the different chords that you're playing over, and it makes it much easier to do interesting things when you solo. Guess what, guys? The good news is my stickers came in during filming, so I get to use them in my last segment. Now, ultimately, you're going to want to move beyond shapes, because that's really just the beginning. That's sort of how you burn the fretboard into your brain. But to me, this is kind of a hack. I hate to use the word hack, but it really is, because it's, to me, a more efficient way of burning it into your head, because it's doing it all with one shape instead of multiple shapes that you then link together. So, once your brain understands all those intervals, it understands what is around a note instead of just understanding chunks of shapes. So, at any place on the fretboard, you just come and you find a note and you treat it as the root, and you just come to know what notes are around it. And the theory is that'll make it a whole lot easier to solo. And if you guys have made it this far, you're probably as much of a guitar geek as I am. What does the system really do? Honestly, I don't entirely know. It's something I've been working on for about 3 years, and I still don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. It just keeps going, and I keep finding more and more uses for it. But simply put, it's a different way to play. I hope that helps.